Hello guys, today we are going to solve simple task. I will use JavaScript. So what we have here, input of function is string and output is boolean, true or false. We need to return true if this string is palindrome, which means when you read it left to right or right to left, you get the same result. But you can also rotate string in some way. If at least one rotation of letter can create palindrome, you need to return true. For example, in this case, we need to move this letter to the beginning, this 3, shift to 1. And we will have the same. But for example, this one is not palindrome, and even if you try rotate letter in some way, you don't get palindrome. They give us hint that brute force approach, which means we need to try every rotation of letter, which is called permutation. So brute force is try every permutation and check if this is palindrome, and they say this is not optimized approach. So let's start with simple check is string palindrome without rotation. So let's handle first case. For string to be palindrome, you need to left to right reading be the same as right to left, which means first letter should be the same as last, second letter should be the same as pre-last, and so on. Middle letter, if exist, should be like you don't care about middle letter because it's always the same. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna use some loops. We can use for loop, or we can use, for example, for each. Let's try first of all, let's create array from string, so we can use some array method like every, and then we have letter, we have index of this letter and array. Input will be palindrome if for every letter it's the same as opposite letter. So for first letter it should be the same as last letter, so it's going to be something like this. So what we're doing here, you need to remember that array is started from 0, so first element of array have index 0. We need to do -1 and then we do minus index. So for first letter index will be equal to 0, so we're going to last letter. For second letter index will be 1, so we're going to pre-last letter, and so on. And we're going to return. So if every letter is the same as opposite letter, it is. We can comment this out. Let's test it. So yeah, sometimes we're going true, but sometimes we got false. For example, for this, because it can be palindrome if we rotate letter. So how we're gonna handle rotation of letter? As they say, brute force approach is not okay, and it's definitely true, because for do every permutation, time complexity of this will be incredibly huge. If you, for example, have 5 letter, count of permutation, so how much brute force you need, is 5 factorial, and factorial function is grow very fast. Let's say factorial of 20 letter will be like it's billion of billions, so it's really too much. And even for like 10 we will have like 3 million. So we cannot do this. It will not work for large string. Like it maybe will work for this, but I'm not sure it will work even for this. What we can do instead? we need to calculate how much pair of letter we have. For example, this string can be palindrome. But why? It's because we have 2m and we have 2a. So each time when we have pair, we can place it in opposite direction. And we have 1d. But it is okay, because only one letter can go to middle. So this first approach is not really working. Let's try more better approach. So I think we still need array, and then we need to try each letter, and I think we need to create some object and in this object we will store how much each letter exists. I was thinking about variable name. Let it be letters count, and we will using letter as a key, and value will be it's count, how much time we see it. So we are going to do something like this. We cannot use increment, so we cannot do like this, because before we see first letter there is undefined here, so it will not work. But what we can do instead, we can use this approach. So if this is undefined, so we never see this letter before, we use 0 as default and add 1. If we already see some letter, for example, here will be 1 and plus 1, so we see it twice, and so on. After we calculate each letter, what we're gonna do is see how much pair we have. As I say, if we have middle letter, so only one can be without pair. Every other should have pairs. To understand do we have middle or not, we need to check input lengths. If it's divisible by 2, it means we don't have middle point. Let's try, I don't think if it's good, let's try. So let's try create variable. So have middle is when input length is divisible by 2. No, it's actually opposite. It's if we don't have, if length not divisible by 2, we have middle. Okay, so what we're gonna do next, we need to iterate over every letters count we store here. So we cannot use for each for object. So what we're gonna do, we will use object entities. Let me Google how it's really work. So yeah, this will create objects of k and value, array of k and value of any object we give. So like this. Then we need to calculate how much not paired letter we have. So let's use filter, and if any letter, let's see, so k value, okay. We will left only letter which don't have pair. So if value divisible by 2, it's good, but if it's not divisible, if it's not divisible by 2, it means we don't have pair for this. So filter will return array of not paired letter, and after this array we just need to see how much elements in this array. And after this we need to return. So if we have middle point. If we have middle point, string will be palindrome if not paired letter is not much than 1. If we don't have middle, we should have 0 not paired letter. Okay, let's test it. Okay, why? So input is a string. Maybe I need to do this. Let's check. Yeah, so when I don't have semicolon, what is happening here, instead of using rest spread operation on input, it's try use it as index for object. So it's not correct, and this is fixed. Okay, all tests in here is working. Let's try global. Yeah, globally it's working, so everything is good. I also think we can use reducer for this. Maybe. I cannot say it will be better. So let's try. Maybe it will looking worse, maybe better. In this case we say that letter count is equal to this, and we use reduce, and we use second argument as default start value. So we're starting with just empty object, and here we will get, like, let's call it accumulator, but it's not actually accumulator in this case. It's more like I don't know any good name for this. Actually this variable is exactly the same as this, but we cannot use it here. Okay, so I don't like reduce. Let's remove it. This is okay. As we don't use key, we can rename it to this. So this symbol, sometimes it's mean lodash, which is library for JavaScript, but also it's very common use to unused variable. So like I don't need it, so I just name it like this. Or I think I can just remove it. Let's try. Yeah, or I can just remove it at all. So, but it's very important you have comma here. So if you remove comma, it stops working. So comma is important. It means you take second element of array. Okay, I think that's all. Let's see how other people solve this task. Okay, what is going on here? Let's try to understand. Okay, so this approach is actually good when you look into the code, because it's like only few lines of code, but I see there's huge performance issue because people, they create here set of all existing letter in input, but then for each letter they filter this. They filter this letter again from original array, original string. And this kind of operation is kind of expensive. So I'm not sure it's good. Like, hard to say how much it's impact performance, but I think a lot. Okay, let's see another approach. Actually, I don't know what is going on here. I don't like regular expression. So let's go next. This one is the best. I think this one is the best. I will give you my kind of like. So what is going on here? We start with string, then we use for of operator to iterate over each letter, each character of string, and if set already has this letter, we will delete it from set. If it's not have, we will add. So what is going on? If we have pair of letter, for example AA, first A will be added to set and second A will be removed from set, and so on. If we have letter 4 times, it will be added, then remove, then added again, and then remove again. So in the end we will see in this set we left only letter which is unpaired, which don't have pair. I don't see where it's checked for middle letter, so I don't know why it's actually working, because let me think. Let's try this. I think it shouldn't work. Okay, it's working here. It's working here, but why? Okay, what about something like I don't know. So okay, let's say we have let's say we have 4 letters. Okay, it's false, okay.